Today's video is about trapezoids and kites. A trapezoid is a quadrilateral with exactly one pair of parallel sides. The parts of a trapezoid consist of the bases, base angles, and legs. The bases are the parallel sides. The other two sides are the legs. And here are the base angles. Every trapezoid has two pairs of base angles. So here they are off the lower base, and we also have base angles off the top of the upper base. I'm going to actually just abbreviate it: base angles, BA and BA, or let's say BANG. All right. So the lower base angles are one pair, the upper ones are the second pair. Angles between the bases are supplementary, meaning that they add up to 180 degrees. So if you were to add one of the lower base angles to the base angle up above it, they would add up to 180 degrees. An isosceles trapezoid is a trapezoid with congruent legs. So in other words, in this trapezoid, here are the legs. They would be the same length. The other thing that happens is base angles are congruent. So here is one pair of base angles that would be congruent, and here is the other pair that would be congruent. The other thing that happens is diagonals are congruent. So if I were to draw both diagonals in here, and let me label my vertices A, B, C, and D. The diagonal AC would be congruent to the diagonal BD. Moving on to our next page, we're going to talk about the mid-segment of a trapezoid. And the mid-segment is the segment that connects the midpoints of the legs. So for instance, let's say that I'm just going to sketch this in. Let's say here is a midpoint and a midpoint on each of the legs. The line connecting them is the mid-segment. Now, some properties of the mid-segment is the mid-segment is parallel to each base. So all of these are parallel. I'll draw a line here labeling this mid-segment. And the mid-segment is equal to 1/2 the sum of the bases. So for instance, let's say that we label this, all of these points, A, E, C, and D, F, and B. The length of that mid-segment of EF, which connects the midpoints, is equal to the lengths of the two bases added together and divided by 2. That's what I mean by 1/2 the sum of the bases. A kite. Moving on to a different figure, a kite is a quadrilateral with two pairs of consecutive congruent sides. So for instance, here's a pair of consecutive congruent sides, and here's the other pair of consecutive congruent sides. If you were to draw in the diagonals in a kite, you would find that the diagonals are perpendicular. So we can make a symbol for a right angle here. Also, the angles between the non-congruent sides are congruent. So these angles right here are also congruent. That is pretty much it for today. Some properties of trapezoids and kites. We'll be applying this in class, just some basic information to get you started. Thank you for joining me.